Welcome everybody to Sales Talk Tuesday. Before we get started, kind of want to do a little housekeeping. This one's going to be a little bit of a longer show, and here's why. I'm going to cover the process of when I'm interacting with a new customer, and you're going to see in just a moment. I want to give you kind of the backstory of where this comes from. So many times when I talk to people and the first thing they always ask me is, hey, or they tell me they need help in closing, they need help in they need help with objections. And it's like I told you, I look on the web, I look at my competitors, I look at the videos they put out there, and I do it on purpose. I want to see what they're teaching the people that are really my customer. And one of the things that I often see, and very consistently, is what I call 3 feet from gold. They're giving a great mindset to where you can take the pounding, where you can get in there with that customer and interact with them. But in the end, you're down here once you get into objections and that customer's pushing back on you, and the biggest one we all hear, let's be honest, what we all hear is, it's too expensive, or I want to think about it, and you don't really know what you're firing at, and that's why I call it 3 feet from gold. I have gotten a ton of emails recently, and everybody's, all the gurus are telling you, agree with the customer. Hey, yeah, you're right. We are a little expensive. On one way, you may be if you're only focusing on cost. At the same time, if you put it in the whole scope, you're not that much of an expense. And the problem that I'm seeing with all of the role plays, all of them, bar none, is none of them have asked any financial questions. Nowhere in that sales call. So let's just say you and I were going to do a role play. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not into sales, if you're in customer service, customer service, you would gain something. But if you're just watching this to see what I'm going to talk about, if you're not into sales and want to understand the process that goes into designing a good interaction with a customer, don't waste your time here, because this is going to be a long show today, because I'm going to go all the way through something that's kind of live. And what I mean by kind of, there was a video that I saw this weekend that was put up by one of my competitors, and a gentleman there was from HomeAdvisor who was doing a role play on the stage. The reason why I liked it being HomeAdvisor is, let's be honest, everybody knows who HomeAdvisor is. They spend a fortune putting ads on TV, online, billboards. You see it everywhere. And what HomeAdvisor does is, and by the way, I want you to understand, I've had people, hey, you may not want to use their name. I have no problem using HomeAdvisor's name. They do a great job. They help contractors market. That's what they are. They are a marketing and advertising company. They are not a contracting company. They do not do any of the work. So they have two things. If you'll look right there on the whiteboard, they have two customers. One is the consumer. The other one is a contractor, and these are the people that do the work. Here's the deal. It's free on this side. And on the other side, they pay $348 a year based on the role play that I saw, and then they pay per lead. Now here's the problem. So HomeAdvisor spends a small fortune doing the marketing. That's what their expertise is. When those people come in, either through their site or by a phone call, they are looking for someone to do a roof, to remodel their bathroom, rebuild something. You don't know what. HomeAdvisor does everything, landscaping, you name it. But to you as the consumer, you're thinking, hey, no big deal. I'll have all these guys come out. On the other side, that contractor, you're a potential customer for him, but there's 5 other people coming right behind him. So when he comes in, there's a lot of pressure on a contractor to give the business away, because they don't know how to sell either. They don't know how to explain their value. So what we're going to focus on here is, on this side, this is a cost to HomeAdvisor. To get that consumer to come in is a cost. They're spending a fortune. On the other side, here's the revenue. So let's say HomeAdvisor hired me to do a sales training for them. They want to see my process. They want, all the companies want to look at it as if they know what in the hell they're looking at. The problem is If they knew what they were looking at, they would never hire an outside contractor anyway. They hire me because, hey, their closing rate's not where it needs to be, their profit per deal's not where it needs to be, they're spending a fortune on one side driving business into their sales team and never ever getting the returns that they're looking for. So when you bring someone like me, an outside contractor, in, you're looking for some new view. And that's where I come in, and I do a very good job. And a lot of training companies don't. And you'll see why as I go through this. When I get into HomeAdvisor, the first thing I want to find out is, where is the revenue coming from? Now, technically, it's coming from this side, the consumer. But realistically, ladies and gentlemen, the only one writing them a check is the contractor. So that's where I want to focus. So because that's who their sales team is going to be calling to send in money. So I want you to stay in this as I'm designing this, because you have to prepare for objections. If I'm doing a sales training, I do live role play. People have often asked, hey, let me see your manual. Well, my manual's not real thick. And the reason is, I teach you a skill and then I apply it to role play. I'm able to play your customer. So if I was going to actually work with HomeAdvisor, I would go out to their call center and I would make calls, or at least observe calls, because a lot of times everybody gets wiggy about me making calls because they try to tell me I don't know what you don't understand our process, you don't understand okay, whatever. All I really need to hear is the calls. And here's the funny thing. I have done some work for some SEO companies, search engine optimization, and some of their best customers are people who use HomeAdvisor. And the reason for this is it's just another form of marketing. It's another form of advertising. That's what SEO is. It's designed to get people to look for somebody to remodel a bathroom. And if they see HomeAdvisor, they want them to skip HomeAdvisor because that's a paid ad, and they go down to them. They click on that, and through the website, they get the lead. So that's why I know so much about HomeAdvisor and why I wanted to use them as an example here tonight. So if you look at it, keep in mind, I don't care about the consumer. So we're going to, as far as the consumer, I'm not going to pay any attention. Let's pay attention to where the revenue comes in for HomeAdvisor, because my focus is going to be for HomeAdvisor to make as much money as they can. They provide an excellent service for both sides of the equation. If you're a consumer and you have no idea who to call, it helps them have someone to call. So there's a value there, and they do a great job of marketing that to the public. You've got these people looking for something to be done. The person's got a background check. They've been checked out. We're good. On the other side, where the revenue stream comes, that contractor, they push back more than you know. So the first thing, if I was looking at it, if I was going to design a script, I want you to get it, talk to the person, find out, get an idea of what that contractor's doing. Now, I want to tell you, you can find the role play that I'm talking about if you go out and you look up, Let Me Think About It. And if you stay in the sales environment, he's one of the best. He does a great job marketing, and you can find the role play. But you really need to look at the whole sales process that the gentleman does with HomeAdvisor. Here's what happens. He calls a contractor, and he starts selling the dream of, hey, wouldn't you love it if we gave you the leads? Wouldn't you love it if you drove the people that you drove past, that you could have done that business versus driving 25 miles, you only have to drive 20. If no one's familiar with the game, that sounds great. But here's what really happens with someone who's a contractor with HomeAdvisor. That lead comes in, and unless they pay a premium, it's going to go out to 4 or 5 other people unless they've changed their model, and I don't think they have. Now you've got 5 people calling on the exact same job. All 5 of those contractors are paying for that very same lead. So let's just hypothetical for easy numbers, let's say $100. So in the role play, the salesperson for HomeAdvisor doing his role play, which he did a fantastic job. I mean, he really did. Just some few little small differences could make all the difference in the world to his closing rate. But he kept talking about the $348 a year. Well, that's not much. I mean, think about it. If I did a billboard, it's going to cost me $150 just to talk to somebody to start doing that billboard. No telling how many thousands of dollars to put a billboard up. So $348 is nothing. So when these leads start coming in, if anyone's ever done anything on the internet, if you don't reply quickly, your competitor's going to eat your lunch. So when those leads come in, and I've heard these guys complain, especially when we're selling the SEO leads, they get mad because the lead comes in. When they call the customer back, the customer never responds. They have to pay. When they call back, the customer's already bought from someone else. They have to pay. No matter what, the contractor has to pay. Well, after a while, if you don't respond quickly and you don't work with the customer correctly, you can spend a fortune and make nothing. But what so many people don't realize is this: HomeAdvisor is a marketing company. It needs to be sold as marketing to these contractors, because so many contractors have no idea how to market anything. In their mind, they put a little thing on the side of their truck. Let's stay in roofing because that's what they talked about in the HomeAdvisor thing. On my house, I had to replace my roof. It was $15,000. There's probably at least a 50% margin, so you got $7,500 in that thing. If I had called somebody to replace that roof, and then 4 or 5 other people, or let's say, with advertising, so now you got 5 people being, trying to get in, get my roof built. If you drive the price too low, the guy can't make a living. If you're someone who's slow, you're paying for a lot of leads, you never really get to talk to a customer. So as a contractor, you're facing some pretty dire things. So in the interaction that I saw in this role play at this boot camp, the sales trainer who was working with him really didn't understand exactly how HomeAdvisor makes their money. The salesperson didn't clearly explain it, and here's where the problem begins. If you don't know anything about your customer, just like what I'm talking about right here, if I went into HomeAdvisor and I just started rolling out, here's my sales process, here's how we do it, it's been successful forever, and I'm going to ram my process down your throat, you're going to do it my way and you will find success, I'm going to give you a hint, doesn't work. And here's why. If I don't understand what that salesperson who's sitting there for HomeAdvisor goes through, when I'm rolling out a sales training to an experienced representative, they're looking, their whole time, they are looking to shoot holes in what I'm teaching. So I've got to be able to play in a live role play that contractor. I've got to put myself in his shoes, and a lot of times it's one man or woman that owns this company that has multiple teams out there that's managing multiple houses at the same time, and the last thing they have a chance to do is answer a text from a marketing company. The problem is, it would be worth it if they would, they just don't understand it. So when you're dealing with a salesperson who hears the griping out of the contractors, and I'm telling you, when I call them, and believe me, I've had several, and so many times they've thought I was HomeAdvisor because I asked them how much are they spending with HomeAdvisor, and they just start dropping the hammer on me. Hey, look, you guys are charging me for a bunch of leads that I didn't have a chance at. And I mean, they just go through this laundry list. And it's really not HomeAdvisor's fault, it's theirs. It's because they weren't sold correctly on the front end. It's because they weren't told, hey, look, you better reply quickly or those leads will go to someone else. So my point here in a sales process, as a sales trainer, I'm very nosy, and I teach my sales reps to be nosy. I want to know. So let's just take the guy that did my roof, Chris Roofing. You can look him up. Phenomenal job. Came out, did everything, went perfectly. They said, hey, it's going to take a day and a half. They did their thing. Boom, boom. They're in, they're out. C'est la vie. They made their money. I had a water leak. Picked up the phone, called him. He came back out. I didn't find him through HomeAdvisor. He came in from a friend of mine. But either way, I would imagine on that 15 grand, he made $7,500. The one thing I learned is there's a lot of problems that happen with the customer themselves. So if I had shopped it and drove it down to a low cost, they would have to cut corners somewhere. You got to know these things. But at the time that Chris Roofing redid my house was in 2008. People weren't doing a lot of upgrades. The economy had slowed down, so they were dying for business. So when I'm working with them, the pressures on profits were very, very tight. So if you're working with a marketing company like HomeAdvisor who's giving you leads and you're not able to follow up on them and you're paying for them no matter what, that's a problem. So when you're interacting with this business owner, and that's what in that role play he kept saying, that the customer would go, oh, let me think about it, I'm not sure, I'm not comfortable. And it was because nobody was talking about the elephant in the room. And that was this, because I hear it. I spent a fortune with HomeAdvisor and I never win the business. All I get is a bunch of cheap consumers that want everything for nothing. It's not worth it to me. Or it would be, hey, I get the damn lead, I call them, and the roof's already been replaced. Why are you selling me a lead that there's no way I can sell if the roof's already replaced? So you've got a lot of things going on. That's not all HomeAdvisor's fault. At the same time, the person who paid for that lead doesn't care if it's HomeAdvisor's fault. That's who they're writing a check to. So here's how I would work with a sales rep. You need to find out. So let's say you were calling into Chris Roofing. One of the things I would ask, hey, you're in the roofing. What do you specialize in? And they do specialize in residential. If they specialize in business, that's a different animal. You're going to sell it a little bit differently. The next thing I would ask is, who's your target customer? So they do residential. What are you doing to get those customers? What's your marketing plan? How are you getting the leads now? And so many of those guys are going to give you an answer of word of mouth. And that's beautiful when it's screaming. When the market's not screaming, it's a terrible thing. And now when you've run out of money, you start marketing. So if I was HomeAdvisor, I would love the customer who tells me he's word of mouth. Because what I want to prepare him for is, hey, at some point that word of mouth is going to dry up. At some point the market's going to slow down and you're not prepared to maximize your money. Yes, you're absolutely right, Mr. Customer. You're going to pay us $6,000 to $7,000 a month. In other words, I'm not going to apologize for my price. If I'm paying $6,000 or $7,000 a month and I'm doing residential roofs in the city that I live in, you can rest assured they're anywhere from $9,000 to $15,000. How many roofs do I have to sell? 2. If I do a $9,000 roof and it's $4,500, after I've done 2, that $7,000 or $8,000 I'm spending for marketing is gone. What happens when you're interacting with that customer and all you're talking about is your product and you're vomiting all over them, all they're focused on is the cost. They're not focused on the fact of, hey, if you'll just respond to your text, hire somebody that all they do is have that phone to reply when someone texts a lead to you, you call back immediately. Document it. You can always go back to HomeAdvisor and say, look, I called this guy on this day, this date, at this time, and that roof had been done 2 weeks ago. You can get your money back on those leads probably. I don't know for sure, but you at least got a good argument. So when you're a sales rep, if you're scared of price and you dance, guess what's going to happen? Your customer's going to sense it. It's just like a German Shepherd. If a German Shepherd senses fear, he bites. So when you're asking that customer to go in there and take a risk with you, and they're going to roll the dice, and all you're telling them, hey, $348 a year, and then you pay per lead, without giving him an idea of what each lead is going to cost him, ladies and gentlemen, no wonder they don't trust you. If you are selling a product that you do not believe in, that customer is going to pick up on it. And so that's why you have to go through this dance. But the thing that I want all of you to realize, when a customer says, I want to think about it, there's some other underlying concern. And when I was watching this thing, they're trying to do they're trying to deflect, they're trying to teach you to just basically roughshod this customer. And I respect the sales trainers, I respect them, they're good at it. They know how to do it. And yes, it's gonna find success. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut. But if you would just step back for a moment and just ask a couple more questions, you would find the real concern. If someone's telling you they want to think about it, and I've talked about this before, Years ago, I supported Radio Shack with Bell South when they were selling cellular phones, and Radio Shack was doing it. And the beautiful thing was, when I got involved with them, they doubled their production from year to year. And here's why. I taught them to shut up. Quit educating the customer on every part that happens. With a cell phone, you know, it's a beautiful thing, but all a customer cares about is, I dial the little number, I hit send, and I want to hear ringing. I don't care to know how the cell sites are set up. I don't care to know about any of those things. All I care about when I'm driving 90 miles an hour down the highway, when I hit send, I want that bad boy to start ringing. And when I'm talking, I want to talk. So when they were over-educating that customer, the customer says to them, hey, I need to think about it. That is where all the problem comes. Don't over-educate your customer. The value in any equation between a salesperson and the customer is you. If they've got questions, let them pick up the phone. Let's say I did sell for Home Advisor. And let's say I sold that customer and I explained to him, hey, here's how it goes down. Here's what you got to expect. From time to time, you're going to get older leads that we're recycling through. Those are cheaper than the first round. And if they haven't bought anything yet, that gives you an opportunity to make some additional money. If they've already bought, just let us know. Document everything, and we'll follow up with the customer, and we'll probably remove that money. That's if I'm hypotheticalizing it. In other words, prepare your customer. Tell them you're going to spend $6,000 to $7,000 a month. My goal out of that, think about it, Mr. Customer, you're paying $100 a lead, and you're paying me $6,000 a month. That's 60 leads. If you can't close 2 or at least 3 in that to make a profit, you need to hire a salesperson, because something is definitely wrong. Let's say half of them are just bad leads. They're terrible. Again, if you can't sell 3 or 4 of those, you need to get somebody that can. I'll work with them and try to help them sell it in a better fashion. All I want you to realize as a salesperson is this. If you're scared of price, if you're scared of asking, you know, when customer, I love it when a customer says, you know, man, you're a lot more expensive than my competitor. I go, yeah. In other words, I acknowledge. What concern do you have with that? Oh, none. Or either they'll say, well, I can get it a lot cheaper. Well, guess what? If I know their revenue, and I know their closing rate, and I know the margins that they make on those closes, it's very easy to justify my cost. Because here's the deal, and it's so funny. It's like I told you, I have a friend of mine that I'll be meeting with later tonight, on a call. When I say a meeting, he's one of the guys that does SEO work. Over the years, he's picked my brain and he's implemented some things, but he doesn't know the whole skill. So have his numbers gone up? Sure they have. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He's ready to pay a hefty price for me to step it up to where he's not only hitting the numbers he's hitting now, but it's measurable. Also, we want to look at the length of time that a customer stays. So in other words, I want to proactively do some things with that customer to keep them a customer. Yes, I'm expensive. But yes, you're going to make a hell of a lot more money than I ever will. I help people. It's just like if you look at this video and you're sitting there, I'm going to give you the one question. So you go, a guy says, hey, let me think about it. Hey, I appreciate it, Mr. Customer. You want to think about it? I'm not saying I agree. I'm just acknowledging them. What concern do you have? They'll say, what do you mean? You come back with, what concern do you have? They'll say, nothing. I just like to think about it. And here's where you've got to take ownership. Well, obviously, Mr. Customer, I've missed something here. What have I missed? Again, they'll say absolutely nothing because they don't want to hurt your feelings. They also don't want to tell you that they're cowards and they won't make a decision. The longer that they put that decision off, on one hand, it saves them your fees. On the other hand, it costs them a fortune because where they make their money is that contractor. Where they make that money is that person committing to taking those leads. Where that contractor makes his money is he's getting customers he would have never seen. It's another channel to come in. And it's just like Zillow does for the real estate world. And I'm going to tell you, I work with a lot of realtors. They shoot themselves in the foot. They don't respond quick enough to Zillow. They come in with a level of arrogance where it's like, hey, you're going to do it my way or no, or, or the highway. And that's just not how it works, because guess what? If you piss a customer off, they can hang up on you and there's another one right there. So you got to be conscientious of it, but you've also got to be assertive. You got to believe in what you're doing. Don't apologize for who you are, what you are, and the fees that you bring to the table. If all you are is a realtor, let's get off of Home Advisor, let's go to realtors. If all you do is put that home, have the pictures taken, put it in the MLS, and walk away and take some calls from buyer's agents, well, you're not worth a heck of a lot. You've got to get creative in your advertising. You've got to get creative in your marketing. You've got to do things like what I'm talking about right now. You have no idea how many guys in real estate I have told, when you're driving to do a listing, why aren't you doing Facebook Live and talking openly? Hey, I'm on my way to blah, 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 blah. Don't give the address. You don't want someone coming in and poaching your deal. But I'm on my way to look at this beautiful, lovely home. It's in the 500,000-600,000 range. It's in the, what area of the city that you're going to. I'm really looking forward to it. These people, just do something, be upbeat and positive. When you're through with that listing call, come out, especially if you got it, and talk about, I've got a great new listing. It's incredibly priced. There's been home updates. Talk about the things that are going on. Market yourself. Make someone believe that you're worth the money that they're paying you. And that's the only thing that I saw. If you can find that, if you can find it, it's Let Me Think About It. It's going to be one of the better marketers in the sales training scope. He makes a fortune. And believe me, he does a good job at what he does, but there's so much more room for them to get even better, and you'll see it based on what I'm talking about. The Home Advisor guy did a wonderful job. He would hang in there, and if you teach some competence and skill, it's amazing what someone can do. One last note before I get off of this tonight. I had a friend of mine that left one industry that was real hardcore. And now he's in another industry, and he got on a phone call today not knowing a thing. And the call went okay. He's had absolutely no training. He's just at a point just trialing it. But with him having the fortitude and taking the beating that he had taken from his other job and the scar tissue that he has built up, this is going to be a walk in the park for him. So all of you guys who are good salespeople, that have the hammer, that have that push, that do those things, if you'll just hone your skills a little bit, it's just like in the movie The Matrix. Remember, he just kept, he kept getting beat up, but as you get better, you just duck, dodge, and it's amazing what you can accomplish. Here's what I want you to realize. The secret. Home Advisor, know what your objections are going to be from the contractor. I've already given them to you. In your questions when you're interacting with them before you're closing, get the information that you need to offset those concerns that you know are going to come. The garbage I hear out of so many reps, well, what if I don't need it? Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal. It's better to have your parachute packed before the plane's going down versus sitting there trying to put that parachute on your back as it is going down. So my point is, it takes a few more seconds to do your call right. It takes a few more seconds to get the information that you need. And if you don't need it, fine. Put it in the notes. You may need it later. And so as a realtor, same thing. When you're working with that client, find out what the motivations are. Find out what they're looking for. Find out the things that they absolutely don't want to have and sell to it. Now, I've talked enough for the evening. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're on Facebook, please, if you got comments, if you hated the content, fine. If you love the content, fine. Do me a favor, like it if you liked what you have. Share it with anybody that you want to share it with. If you've got some questions, please reach out to me through Facebook Messenger. I reply to everything. It may take me a little bit of time. Been busy as a one-armed paper hanger here lately, which is a good thing. And I have a meeting that I'm going to as soon as we get through here. All I'm wanting you to do as a salesperson is realize if you're scared of price, you're not asking the right questions to be prepared for it. If you're hammering that customer at too expensive, I want to think about it, need to talk with my partner, this won't work for me, and you're trying to close that customer, I'm telling you right now, you don't have enough information and you don't know what you're shooting at. You've got to get better at digging 3 feet from gold. You've got to reach in there and get that information so you know what you're firing at. Don't come in with this pompous attitude, hey, we're the best of the best, we don't have competition. Everybody has competition. Some just not very close to you. In the end, you've got to help that customer realize you're looking out for them first. Now, here's the other thing I want you to look at. When I've talked about my role play, was I talking about helping the home advisor guy, or was I talking about helping the contractor? I'm talking about helping the contractor. And in the end, it helps that consumer, because the better contractors, they already have a name in the industry. They may not come on board, but if they knew that they were going to be able to help their customer and make more money and manage it properly, everybody wins. You need to, as salespeople, don't focus on your customer, focus on your customer's customer, and you'll find the answers to sell them anything. Look, it's been a pleasure doing it this evening. I'm probably going to always move this to the nighttime. The days are getting busier and busier and busier, so I'm just going to take my night times to do it. It's been a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you on the next Sales Talk Tuesday. I'm sure I'll do a video between now and then. If you've got anything that you want me to focus on, reach out to me. If you've got a call you want me to evaluate, reach out to me. I have no problem doing a live call and give feedback on one of these, because you get to hear it as it's happening. It's a wonderful thing. Look, it's been a pleasure. Please subscribe or share.